At night, a call came in from an unknown number. "Sir, your wife is at our gas station right now. She is cold, exhausted, and bruised." My heart sank. Eleanor was supposed to be safe with my daughter and son-in-law. But where were they? They had left her alone in the desert and fled. I drove 250 miles to pick her up, and now they will pay tenfold because justice does not forgive the betrayal of loved ones. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. The phone's vibration dragged me from sleep at 2:17 in the morning. I fumbled across the nightstand, knocking over my reading glasses, squinting at the screen's harsh glow. Unknown number. Arizona area code. Yes. My voice came out rough, disoriented. "Sir, Mr. Prescott, I got your number from the lady here. Your wife. She says her name is Eleanor Prescott and you're her husband." The voice was young, nervous, male. I sat up too fast, blood rushing in my ears. "Yes, I'm Oliver Prescott. Eleanor is my wife. What's going on? Is this some kind of joke?" "No, sir, no joke. She's here at Desert Oasis out by Dusty Junction. She's been here since yesterday morning alone. Sir, she has bruises on her face. She won't tell me much, but she's scared and cold, and she finally gave me your number." The words landed like fists. "Eleanor should be at Grand Canyon National Park with our daughter, Laura, and son-in-law, Ethan. Safe. 250 miles from Dusty Junction, and they'd left 3 days ago. Where is my daughter? Where is Ethan? They were traveling together." The pause stretched too long. "Sir, there's nobody here but her. She's been alone the whole time." I was already moving, throwing off the blanket, my feet hitting the cold floor. 38 years of marriage, and I knew Eleanor's rhythms like my own heartbeat. She wouldn't be alone at a gas station. Not voluntarily. "I'm coming. Give me the address." I dressed in yesterday's clothes still draped over the chair, hands shaking as I checked my wallet. License, credit cards, cash, everything automatic. While my mind raced ahead through possibilities, each worse than the last. In the kitchen, I grabbed water and protein bars without thinking, old prosecutor habits kicking in. Be prepared. Stay functional. The note I started writing. Gone to get Eleanor. I crumpled and tossed it in the trash. No one else lived here. No one to tell. I tried Laura's number as I backed out of the driveway. Straight to voicemail. I didn't leave a message. Tried again. 20 miles down Highway 17. Same result. My jaw clenched so tight my teeth ached. The desert highway stretched black and endless under my headlights. I pushed the speedometer to 85, then 90. No other cars. Just me in the darkness and the terrible arithmetic unfolding in my head. 3 days since the family dinner where Ethan had pulled out that manila folder. Just want to show you both this trip insurance information. Make sure everyone's protected. The way he'd kept refilling Eleanor's wine glass. How Laura had insisted. Mom needs to come right now while we have time off work. Details I dismissed, then assembled themselves now like evidence at trial. The pattern emerging. Deliberate. Calculated. Desert Oasis appeared suddenly. Harsh fluorescent lights blasting the darkness. I swung into the lot too fast. Tires squealing. And there she was. Eleanor sat on a metal bench outside the convenience store, wrapped in an employee blanket. Her hair hung in tangled strands around her face. Her clothes, the nice traveling outfit she'd worn with such pride, were creased and dirty. But it was the bruises that stopped my breath. Dark marks on her upper arms. A purple shadow blooming on her left cheekbone. Grip marks. Someone had grabbed her hard. She looked up as I approached, and the expression on her face shattered something in my chest. Not relief. shame. I knelt in front of her slowly, taking it all in with trained eyes, every bruise, every tremor, the way she folded into herself, making herself smaller. Elle, I'm here now. I waited. Her voice came out broken, barely audible. I thought they'd come back. I thought maybe they forgot. A young kid hovered nearby, watching anxiously. The employee who'd called. Dark hair, maybe 19. He shifted his weight, clearly wanting to help, but unsure how. Don't talk now. I told Eleanor, let's get you somewhere warm and safe. We'll figure this out. She finally met my eyes, and the pain there cut deeper than any physical wound. Oliver. They left me. Our daughter left me on purpose. I helped her stand, supporting her weight as she leaned against me. She felt smaller than I remembered, diminished. I grabbed her small overnight bag from beside the bench, the only possession she had, and guided her toward my car. The young employee approached, apologetic and relieved. Mr. Prescott. I'm Dylan. I'm the one who called. I'm sorry it took so long. But she didn't want me to call anyone at first. She kept saying they'd come back. How long has she been here exactly since yesterday morning? Around 10:00. It's been almost 28 hours. Sir, I gave her water, some snacks from the store. My manager said I could let her stay in the employee room during my shifts. She just kept watching the road. 28 hours, a day and a half in the desert cold, bruised and abandoned, waiting for family who weren't coming back. Did anyone else stop? Did she call anyone besides me? She tried calling 2 numbers over and over. Nobody answered. She finally broke down crying around midnight and gave me your number. I pulled cash from my wallet and pressed it into Dylan's hand. You probably saved her life. Desert nights get cold. Thank you for calling me. He tried to refuse, but I closed his fingers around the bills. Take it. You did the right thing when my own family didn't. I settled Eleanor into the passenger seat and walked around to the driver's side. The prosecutor in me was already working, organizing facts into patterns, identifying what I needed to know and what I needed to do. 40 years in the prosecutor's office taught me to spot conspiracy. This wasn't impulse or accident. Someone had planned this. Someone had hurt my wife deliberately. And someone was going to pay. The Canyon View Motel sat 10 minutes down the road, a low-slung building with faded blue paint and a flickering vacancy sign. I pulled up to the office while Eleanor waited in the car, still wrapped in that gas station blanket. The night clerk barely looked up as I paid cash for a room. He slid a key across the counter with the mechanical efficiency of someone who'd stopped noticing guests years ago. Room 12, ground floor, end unit. I helped Eleanor inside, flipping on lights that revealed generic desert landscape paintings and a threadbare comforter. But it was clean. It was warm. It was safe. Hot shower. Clean towels. Then sleep if you can. She stood in the middle of the room, swaying slightly, looking lost. Then her face crumpled. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry you had to drive all this way. I should have known. I should have seen it coming. I caught her before the apology could spiral further. Stop. None of this is your fault. Not one single piece. We'll talk when you're ready. Not before. The shower ran for 20 minutes. I heard her crying through the door, but didn't intrude. Some things you have to get out alone. While she was in there, I stepped outside and called the motel's front desk, asking about food delivery. The clerk gave me a number for a diner that did breakfast runs. By the time Eleanor emerged in the motel's thin robe, her hair damp and combed, scrambled eggs and toast had arrived. I set everything on the small table by the window and poured her coffee from the foam cup. Where are we going? Her voice was steadier now, but still fragile. Motel in town. You need rest before we drive home. I don't want to be a burden. You're my wife. You're never a burden. Just rest now. She picked at the eggs, managing a few bites. I watched her hands shake around the fork. The bruises on her arms looked darker in the lamplight. Someone had gripped her hard enough to leave perfect finger marks after she'd eaten what she could. She curled up on the bed. I thought she might sleep, but instead she stared at the ceiling, blinking too fast. It was the second day. The words came out quiet, almost reluctant. We'd driven to the park, took some photos. Ethan was charming, telling stories, making me laugh. I thought maybe I'd been wrong about him. Maybe he really cared. I pulled a chair close to the bed, but didn't interrupt. Let her tell it her way. That's how you get the truth. What changed breakfast? He pulled out papers, said it was standard stuff for the trip, emergency contacts, insurance. But I looked closer. It wasn't trip insurance. It was power of attorney, healthcare directives, asset management agreements. My blood went cold. I kept my voice level. What exactly did the paper say? The language. It said in the event of mental or physical incapacity and transfer of property management. And there were references to our house, our accounts, everything. I said I wasn't signing anything without you reviewing it. Ethan's face. It just shut down like a mask dropped. Laura said, "Mom, don't you trust us? We're just trying to help." But it didn't feel like help. My hands tightened on the chair arms. Coercion, fraud, elder abuse. The charges lined up in my head automatically. And then Eleanor's voice broke. 2 hours later, we stopped at that gas station. They said they needed to use the restroom and grab snacks for the road. I went to the bathroom. When I came out, their car was gone. I stood there thinking I must be confused. Maybe they pulled around back, but their car was just gone. And my phone showed missed calls from both of them from an hour earlier. Calls I never received. They'd called when I was in the car with them to create a record. The sophistication of it stunned me for a moment, creating false evidence of attempted contact, making it look like she'd been negligent, confused, lost, setting up a narrative of mental decline. How long did you wait? Hours. I called them over and over. Nothing. That boy Dylan finally came out around lunchtime, asked if I was okay. I said my family was coming back. I believed it. I waited all day, all night, all the next day. I kept thinking there was a mistake, an explanation. But there wasn't. Was there? I stood, the prosecutor taking over completely now. My voice came out like ice. No, there wasn't. This was deliberate. They tried to coerce you. When you refused, they retaliated. Get dressed. We're going home. Shouldn't we call Laura? Shouldn't we know? We don't call them. We don't warn them. We go home and I handle this my way. While Eleanor dressed in the bathroom, I pulled out the small notebook I always carried, another prosecutor habit. Document everything. I wrote down dates, times, every detail she'd told me about the papers Ethan had shown her, the timeline of abandonment, the fake phone calls, evidence. Later, as I packed up our few things and checked the room, I pulled out my phone. One more time. Laura's name sat there in my contacts. My thumb hovered over it. Then I put the phone away. Not yet. First get Eleanor home. Then gather more evidence. Then, and only then, make contact. But when I did, it would be on my terms. I slid into the driver's seat and started the engine. Morning sun was rising over the Arizona desert, burning off the night's shadows. The 4-hour drive home stretched ahead, and with every mile I was building a case. We pulled into our driveway just before noon, The house looked exactly as I'd left it hours earlier, but everything felt different now. I helped Eleanor inside, her movements slow and careful, like someone recovering from surgery. "Rest," I told her, guiding her toward our bedroom. "I'm calling Dr. Carter." Helen Carter had been our family physician for 15 years. She arrived within an hour, medical bag in hand, her expression concerned. I led her to the bedroom where Eleanor sat on the edge of the mattress, still wearing the clothes from the motel. "I need you to document everything," I said quietly as Helen set down her bag. "Every injury, every mark, complete medical report." Helen's eyes met mine. 20 years of treating patients had taught her to read between lines. "I understand." She was gentle with Eleanor, asking permission before each examination. But her documentation was clinical, precise. She measured each bruise with a medical ruler, noting dimensions and color, photographed them with a professional camera, studied the pattern of the grip marks on Eleanor's upper arms. "Can you tell me how this happened?" Helen asked, her pen poised over her notepad. Eleanor's voice came out barely audible. "Someone grabbed me hard during an argument." "Who grabbed you?" The pause stretched. "Then my daughter's husband." I watched from the doorway as Helen wrote it down. Every word, every detail. When she finished, she looked at me again and I saw recognition there. She'd documented domestic violence cases before. She knew what I was building. "The report will be thorough," she said. After Helen left, I went to my office and shut the door. For 40 years, this room had been my sanctuary. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, my old prosecutor's desk, framed commendations on the walls. Now, it became a war room. I cleared everything off the desk's surface. Then I began laying out documents in careful order. Bank statements on the left, the credit card records I'd printed before leaving to get Eleanor. In the center, I placed the photos I'd taken of the fraudulent power of attorney papers, while Eleanor had showered at the motel. She'd kept them in her bag, unable to throw them away. I studied those papers now with a prosecutor's eye. The language was sophisticated. Professional terminology, proper formatting. But the substance was pure predation. Clauses about a mental or physical incapacity, with no medical basis. Broad powers over financial accounts. Asset transfer provisions buried in dense paragraphs. Whoever drafted this knew exactly what they were doing, creating something that looked legitimate enough to fool an elderly person, but would be immediately flagged as fraudulent by any attorney. They'd been counting on Eleanor not having time to get legal review, counting on her trust. I photographed every page, made copies, highlighted the most problematic sections in yellow. Then I logged into our bank accounts. The pattern emerged within minutes. Small transfers to Ethan and Laura's joint account. Always just under $1,500. One every few weeks. 6 months of systematic theft. I created a spreadsheet. Date, amount, description. Read highlights for unauthorized transactions. The total made my hands shake. $12,000. That evening, my phone rang. Laura's number. I activated the recording app before answering. Arizona's one-party consent law meant I could legally record any conversation I participated in. Then I put the phone on speaker. "Dad." "Oh, thank goodness you answered." Her voice was artificially high, theatrical. I said nothing. Just listened. "Something terrible has happened. Mom disappeared from our hotel. We've been looking everywhere. We called the police. Stop." The word came out like a knife. Silence on the other end. "What, Dad?" "I'm trying to tell you. Your mother is home with me. I drove 250 miles in the middle of the night to pick her up from a gas station in Dusty Junction, where you left her 28 hours earlier." The silence stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. Then a different voice came on. Ethan. Smooth. Practiced. "Oliver." There's been a massive misunderstanding. We thought Eleanor was in the hotel bathroom, and when we couldn't find her, we assumed she'd gone for a walk. We searched everywhere. We were frantic. You're lying. We both know it. We'll discuss this face to face soon. Be ready. I hung up. Immediately, transferred the audio file to my computer, labeled it with date and time, saved 3 backup copies. For the next 2 days, I worked methodically, photographed Eleanor's bruises from multiple angles with a ruler for scale, compiled financial records, built a timeline of every interaction with Ethan and Laura over the past 6 months. Small things I'd dismissed at the time now formed a pattern. The unusual questions about our assets, Ethan's interest in our estate planning, Laura's sudden attentiveness after years of minimal contact. On the 3rd day, I called Michael Ford. We'd worked together 20 years ago when we were both in the prosecutor's office. Michael had specialized in elder abuse cases before going into private practice. I laid out the facts without emotion: abandonment, attempted fraud, unauthorized financial transfers. "You've been documenting," Michael asked. "Everything. Medical reports, photographs, financial records, recorded phone calls. Come to my office tomorrow. Bring everything." I didn't tell Eleanor about the appointment. She was resting, recovering. She didn't need to know yet how far I was prepared to take this. That night, Ethan called back. His voice was harder now, the smooth charm abandoned. "We need to talk about this situation rationally. There are clearly some misunderstandings that need to be cleared up." "There's no misunderstanding. You attempted to coerce my wife into signing fraudulent documents. When she refused, you abandoned her in the desert. Those are facts. That's your interpretation. Our interpretation is very different. Then you can explain your interpretation to the police or to me in person with Laura present." A pause, calculation in his voice when he spoke again. "Fine. When and where? I'll let you know soon." I hung up and looked at the evidence spread across my desk. The story told itself in documents and photographs and recorded conversations. Airtight. Irrefutable. Now I just needed to decide how to use it. Michael Ford's office occupied the 3rd floor of a refurbished building downtown. I arrived at 9 the next morning with 2 accordion folders full of documentation. He'd aged since I'd seen him last. More gray in his hair, lines deeper around his eyes. But his handshake was firm and his focus sharp. We spent 3 hours going through everything. He made notes, asked questions, occasionally nodded with grim recognition. "This is solid," he finally said. "Elder abuse under Arizona Revised Statute 2009, attempted fraud. Financial exploitation. The medical documentation alone would convince most prosecutors. What are my options? Criminal charges, civil suit, a restraining order, or..." He paused. "You could offer them a choice: restitution and permanent separation, or prosecution. Sometimes the threat is more powerful than the action." I thought about that as I drove home. By the time I pulled into my driveway, I'd made my decision. That evening, I called Laura. "I want to see you and Ethan here at the house next Saturday at 2. "Dad, I don't think that's a good idea. Bring Emily and Jack. They should see their grandparents." The mention of the children changed her tone immediately. Hope crept into her voice. "Really, you want to see the kids Saturday, 2:00. Don't be late." Saturday came. Valentine's Day. Ironically, I'd chosen the date deliberately. A day associated with love and family, now repurposed as a reckoning. Eleanor was nervous all morning, straightening cushions that didn't need straightening, checking the kitchen repeatedly. I told her what I planned to do, and she'd simply nodded, trusting my judgment. At exactly 2:00, Ethan's car pulled up. I watched from the window as they got out, Laura carrying a bakery box, probably cookies for the kids. Ethan helping Emily and Jack from the back seat. Both children ran toward the house with the unself-conscious joy of 9 and 6. I opened the door and knelt to hug them both. Whatever happened with their parents, these children were innocent. Grandpa. Emily wrapped her arms around my neck. We brought Valentine cookies. That's wonderful, sweetheart. Grandma's in the kitchen. Why don't you two go show her? The children raced inside. Laura and Ethan followed more slowly, tension visible in their shoulders. Dad. Laura started, but I held up a hand. Let the kids settle first. We'll talk after. For 30 minutes, I played the role of grandfather, admired the Valentine cookies the children had decorated. Let Jack show me his new toy truck. Watched Eleanor smile genuinely for the first time in days as Emily chattered about her school play. Then I stood. Emily. Jack. Why don't you watch that show you like in the guest room? The one with the talking animals. They went happily, and I closed the living room door behind them. The temperature in the room dropped immediately. Sit down, I said to Ethan and Laura. They sat on the couch. Eleanor took the chair beside me. I remained standing. Look at these documents carefully. I placed the medical report on the coffee table between us. Then the photographs of Eleanor's bruises, the bank statements showing unauthorized transfers, the recorded phone transcripts. Ethan picked up the medical report, attempting bravado. What is this supposed to prove? Medical documentation of assault, witness testimony of abandonment, evidence of financial fraud. Choose any term you prefer. Laura's voice broke. Dad, please, we can explain. Then explain. Explain the bruises on your mother's arms. Explain leaving her at a gas station for 28 hours. Explain $12,000 in unauthorized transfers. Silence. Thon's jaw was clenched, a vein visible at his temple. Laura looked at her mother, then away. You have two options, I continued. First option, I take these documents to the prosecutor's office. They file charges for elder abuse, attempted fraud, and financial exploitation. You'll face criminal prosecution. Ethan stood abruptly. Aggressive. You're bluffing. You can't prove intent. Any lawyer would tear this apart. This is harassment, intimidation. I didn't move. I was a prosecutor for 40 years. I know exactly what I can prove. Second option, you return every dollar you took. You apologize to Eleanor. You never contact us again asking for money. Dad, we just needed help getting on our feet. Laura's tears were streaming now. We're family. Families help each other. Families don't abandon each other in the desert. You have 72 hours to decide. Ethan moved toward the door, his face red with anger. You'll regret this. Going after your own daughter. What kind of father does that? The kind who protects his wife. The kind who believes in consequences. Laura made one last attempt, her voice breaking. Daddy, please don't do this. Think about Emily and Jack. Think about our family. I'm thinking about them. I'm thinking they deserve better than parents who abuse elderly relatives for money. 72 hours. Laura, the door slammed. Through the window, I watched Ethan's car peel out, tires squealing on the pavement. Emily's Valentine cookies sat abandoned on the kitchen counter. Beside me, Eleanor was crying quietly, not for herself, but for what we'd lost. I put my arm around her shoulders and held her as we stood at the window, watching the empty street. The 72-hour countdown had begun. 72 hours. 3 full days of silence. No calls, no texts, no apologetic knock at the door. Just waiting. Watching my phone like it might spontaneously combust. Eleanor checked hers compulsively. 2. Hoping each time that Laura's name would appear on the screen. It didn't. When the deadline expired at exactly 2:00 on Monday afternoon, I picked up my phone to call Michael. The doorbell rang before I could dial. A young woman stood on my porch holding an envelope. Process server. I knew the type. Efficient. Neutral. Done this 1,000 times. Oliver Prescott. Yes. She handed me the envelope and walked away. I closed the door and stood in my own foyer, staring at the return address. A law firm in Phoenix. Not Michael's firm. Theirs. I opened it. The first page made my vision tunnel. Petition for conservatorship. Laura Prescott Hayes, petitioner, requesting legal guardianship over Oliver Prescott and Eleanor Prescott based on advanced age, diminished mental capacity, and inability to manage personal affairs. Eleanor appeared from the kitchen, took one look at my face, and went pale. What is it? I handed her the papers without speaking, watched her read, saw the exact moment she understood what our daughter had done. Her voice came out shaking. She's saying we're incompetent, that we can't manage our own lives. She's trying to take control of everything we own before I can take legal action against her. Our own daughter thinks we're senile, or she's lying about thinking that. My jaw clenched so hard my teeth ached. She's not thinking anything. Ethan is thinking for her. This is his strategy. Make us the problem. Claim he's protecting us. What do? We fight, and we win. 30 minutes later, I was in Michael's office. He read the conservatorship petition, his expression darkening with each page. This is aggressive. Whoever advised this strategy is either brilliant or reckless. My money's on reckless. What are our options? We prove competency, medical evaluations, cognitive tests, the works. We file for a protective order based on the abandonment incident, and we investigate them. Everything. Finances, employment, living situation. I thought about Emily and Jack, 9 and 6 years old, caught in the middle of a war they didn't understand. The grandchildren. If this goes badly, they could get caught in the crossfire. Michael chose his words carefully. There are systems designed to protect children, anonymous reporting systems. If there are legitimate concerns about their home environment, the implication hung between us. I see. I'm not suggesting anything specific. I'm just noting that child welfare is always a priority. Over the next week, Eleanor and I underwent comprehensive medical evaluations, cognitive function tests, memorizing word lists, solving puzzles, recalling recent events, physical examinations, psychiatric assessments. The doctor who conducted my cognitive evaluation smiled slightly when I rattled off the date, the president's name, and the list of words she'd asked me to remember 20 minutes earlier. Your cognitive function is excellent, Mr. Prescott. Better than many people half your age. For the record, there is absolutely no evidence of diminished capacity. Will you put that in writing, already typing the report? That same week, I made a call I never thought I'd make, from a grocery store parking lot 20 miles from home, using a prepaid cell phone bought with cash. I dialed Child Protective Services. I spoke calmly about concerns for my grandchildren, a father with financial problems and anger management issues, a mother under severe stress, recent family conflicts exposing the children to adult problems. I provided their address, refused to give my name. The operator said they'd investigate. I broke the phone in half and dropped it in a public trash can 3 blocks away, through old contacts at the prosecutor's office. People who still owed me favors. I learned something interesting about Ethan. His name had appeared in a case file 2 years ago connected to an investigation of illegal online gambling operations. The case was dropped, but the connection was noted. Gambling debts. That explained the desperation for our money. I hired a forensic accountant, not a private detective. Those felt too invasive. But following money, That's what I'd done for 40 years. I gave the auditor everything. Ethan's name, social security number from old family tax documents, employment information. Find everything. I told him. The court hearing came on the last day of February. Judge Patricia Hayes. I'd worked cases in her courtroom during my final years at the prosecutor's office. She was fair, intelligent, and took no nonsense. Laura's attorney presented their petition. Elderly parents showing signs of confusion, concerning behavior, erratic financial decisions. Michael methodically destroyed every claim. Comprehensive medical evaluations, perfect cognitive function. Financial records showing not our confusion, but their theft. Dylan's witness testimony about the abandonment. Doctor Carter's medical report documenting assault. Judge Hayes' decision was swift. Petition for conservatorship denied. Furthermore, I'm granting the Prescott's motion for a protective order. Miss Prescott Hayes and Mr. Hayes are to maintain a distance of 100 yards from Mr. and Mrs. Prescott at all times. First victory. As we left the courtroom, I caught Ethan's eye across the hallway. The hatred there was pure, undiluted. He leaned close to Laura, whispered something sharp. She nodded, her face hard. This wasn't over. Outside. Michael put a hand on my shoulder. You won. They can't touch you legally now. They'll try something else probably. But you're protected. I thought about the financial auditor's report due any day now. About the anonymous call I'd made. About all the pressure building around Ethan and Laura. Like a vice slowly tightening. We'll see, I said. The financial auditor's report arrived by encrypted email 3 days after the court hearing. I printed it in my office with the door locked. 40 pages of pure devastation. Online casino accounts showing losses exceeding $75,000 over 2 years. High-interest loans from predatory lenders. Credit cards maxed and defaulting. And worst of all, a second mortgage on Ethan and Laura's house, signed only by Ethan, either forged or obtained without Laura's knowledge. I sat back, absorbing the implications. Ethan hadn't just been stealing from us. He'd been destroying his own family financially for years. I photographed key pages, saved multiple digital copies, locked the printed report in my safe. Then I called Michael. I need to know the legal boundaries of sharing financial information with a family member. Whose information Ethan's with Laura? A pause. That's complicated territory. If the information was legally obtained, and you're sharing it with someone who has a legitimate interest, like a spouse whose finances are being destroyed, that would be a legitimate interest. But Oliver, tread carefully. There are ethical lines. I'm not planning to blackmail anyone. I'm planning to give someone information they have a right to know. Then I can't advise against it. But document how you obtained everything and make sure it's factual, not opinion. I spent the next week observing Laura's patterns, not surveillance, just awareness. I learned she grocery shopped every Tuesday morning at the market on Main Street alone. Ethan worked construction and was always on site by 7. The following Tuesday, I was in that grocery store at 9:30. I saw her in the produce section examining apples. She hadn't noticed me yet. I made sure to stay exactly 101 yards away, just outside the restraining order limit, but within the same public space, legal, defensible. Then I moved closer, calculating the distance carefully. 90 yards. 80, she looked up and froze. Don't worry, I said quietly, stopping at exactly 75 yards. I'm not violating the order, but we need to talk. Her face went hard. We have nothing to say to each other. The judge made that clear. The judge said we can't contact each other. She didn't say we can't speak if we happen to be in the same public place. I held up a thick folder. This is information about your financial situation. I think you should have it. I know our financial situation. Do Do you know about the $75,000 Ethan owes to online casinos? Do you know about the second mortgage he took out on your house, the one with only his signature? Do you know about the credit cards he opened in your name without telling you? Her face drained of color. I set the folder on a nearby display of oranges, within her reach, but not handed directly to her. No physical contact, no coercion. I'm not asking you to do anything. I'm not pressuring you, but you're still my daughter, and Emily and Jack are still my grandchildren. This information is yours. What you do with it is your choice. I walked away before she could respond, headed toward the checkout lanes. I didn't look back. At home, I told Eleanor I'd run into Laura at the store. True, if strategically vague about the circumstances. She asked if Laura had said anything about reconciliation. I said no, which was also true. That afternoon, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Laura using a friend's phone. We need to meet. Not at your house because of the order. Tomorrow. Desert Brew Coffee, downtown 2 Pa Sim. I showed Eleanor the message. She wants to meet, she said, hope flooding her voice. Don't get ahead of yourself. She might be coming to yell at me, but I knew better. She was coming to ask questions. The next day, I arrived at Desert Brew Coffee at 1:55. Laura was already there, sitting at a corner table far from other customers. The folder I'd left sat in front of her, worn from repeated examination. I got coffee black and sat down across from her. Stayed silent. Let her speak first. Is this real? Her voice was hollow. All of it. Every document is verified. Bank statements, loan records, credit reports, all obtained legally through a forensic accountant. You can verify it yourself. Call the creditors. Check your credit report, the house, the mortgage. My signature isn't on it. I know that's forgery. That's fraud. Yes, she put her head in her hands. When she looked up, her eyes were red. How long have you known I hired the auditor after you filed the conservatorship petition? The report came last week. Why are you telling me this after everything? I met her eyes steadily. Because you're still my daughter. And Emily and Jack are still my grandchildren. Ethan is the problem, not you. But you need to see that clearly. I don't know what to do. Start by learning the truth. Then protect your children. The rest will follow. She gathered the folder, stood abruptly. I need time to think. Take all the time you need. She left without another word. I sat there finishing my coffee, watching through the window as she got into her car. She didn't pull away immediately, just sat there staring at the folder in her lap. Finally, she pulled out her phone and made a call. Even from inside the coffee shop, I could see her body language shift, rigid, angry. She was calling Ethan, confronting him. I paid for my coffee and walked to my car. Through my rearview mirror, I watched Laura on the phone, pacing in tight circles beside her car, her free hand gesturing sharply. The call ended. She stood very still for a long moment. Then she got in her car and peeled out of the parking lot. Tires squealing, I started my engine and headed home. Phase 1. Separate them emotionally. Accomplished. That evening, my phone stayed silent. No calls from Laura. No texts. No updates. I tried to focus on dinner with Eleanor, but my mind kept returning to that parking lot, watching Laura make that angry phone call. Whatever she'd said to Ethan, it was just the beginning. The call came 12 days later, March 22nd, just after 8 in the morning. Laura's voice was small, broken. Dad, it's me. I need to talk to you. I walked to my office, closed the door. I'm listening. You were right about everything. The gambling, the debts, the forged documents. I checked it all. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. The words came out rushed, desperate, but I didn't soften. You didn't know about the debts, but you knew you left your mother at a gas station. You knew she had bruises. You knew what you did. Silence, then crying. He told me she was manipulating us, that she ruined the papers on purpose to make us look bad. I believed him because I wanted to believe we were the victims, not the criminals. And now I see what I am, what I did. I don't expect forgiveness. I just need to protect my children from the mess I created. I let her cry for another minute. Then I laid out my terms. If you want any path toward eventual reconciliation, and I'm not promising anything, you need to take concrete action. First, file for divorce immediately. Second, agree to temporary custody of Emily and Jack with us while you stabilize. Third, return the $12,000. Dad, I can't. Child Services is investigating your home. If you don't act now, the decision gets taken out of your hands. The silence stretched. Finally, how long do I have? 2 weeks for all three? The money I'll need time to payment plan is acceptable, but the divorce papers need to be filed within 2 weeks. Non-negotiable. Another long pause. Okay. One more thing. When you file, you need to request that the notary who witnessed the forged mortgage be investigated. That person is either complicit or had their credentials stolen. Either way, it's evidence. I said it casually, almost as an afterthought. But I knew Ethan. Desperate men make desperate choices. And if Ethan thought the notary could be convinced or coerced into changing their testimony, I'll include it in the filing, Laura said. We hung up. I sat at my desk for a long time thinking about next moves, contingencies, how Ethan would react when the walls really started closing in. 2 weeks and 1 day later, on April 5th, Laura filed for divorce. Michael called me that afternoon to tell me. She cited irreconcilable differences, requested full custody with supervised visitation for Ethan, and flagged the forged mortgage for investigation. The papers were served to Ethan at his workplace an hour ago. How did he react? Server said he went pale, then red, then walked out of the building without a word. That evening, I stood at my kitchen window watching the street. Eleanor was upstairs preparing the guest room for Emily and Jack, humming softly as she worked. The sound was almost peaceful. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. You did this. You destroyed my family. This isn't over. I saved the message, forwarded it to Michael with a note. Documentation for potential restraining order extension. Then I deleted the unknown number and went upstairs to help Eleanor make up the beds. The next phase was already in motion, and this time Ethan would do most of the work himself. That evening, my phone stayed silent. No calls from Laura, no texts, no updates. I tried to focus on dinner with Eleanor, but my mind kept returning to that parking lot, watching Laura make that angry phone call to Ethan. Whatever she'd said to him, it was just the beginning. The next morning, Michael called. Child Protective Services completed their home visit at Ethan and Laura's house. The report isn't public yet, but my contact says they noted concerning financial instability and evidence of ongoing parental conflict. They're requiring a follow-up in 30 days. Another pressure point. Another crack in the foundation. Days passed. I went about my normal routine. Grocery shopping, coffee with Eleanor at our favorite diner, reviewing old case files in my office just to keep my mind sharp. But I was waiting, watching. The call came 12 days after the grocery store encounter. March 22nd, just after 8:00 in the morning. Laura's voice was small, broken, nothing like the defensive woman from the courtroom. Dad, it's me. I need to talk to you. I walked to my office, closed the door so Eleanor wouldn't hear. I'm listening. You were right about everything. The gambling, the debts, the forged documents. I checked it all myself. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. The words tumbled out. Rushed. Desperate. Part of me wanted to comfort her, but the prosecutor in me stayed cold. You didn't know about the debts, but you knew you left your mother at a gas station. You knew she had bruises. You knew what you did. Silence. Then crying. Raw and ugly. He told me she was manipulating us, that she ruined the papers on purpose to make us look bad. I believed him because I wanted to believe we were the victims, not the criminals. And now I see what I am, what I did. I don't expect forgiveness. I just need to protect my children from the mess I created. I let her cry for another minute, let the weight of it settle. Then I laid out my terms, each one deliberate, non-negotiable. If you want any path toward eventual reconciliation, and I'm not promising anything, you need to take concrete action. First, file for divorce immediately. Second, agree to temporary custody of Emily and Jack with us while you stabilize your situation. Third, return the $12,000 you took. Dad, I can't just... Child Services is investigating your home. If you don't act now, the decision gets taken out of your hands completely. The silence stretched. I could hear her breathing uneven and shaky. How long do I have? 2 weeks for all 3 requirements. The money. I'll need time to get that kind of... Payment plan is acceptable. First installment within 30 days. But the divorce papers need to be filed within 2 weeks. Non-negotiable. Another long pause. I could almost hear her calculating, weighing options, realizing she had none. Okay. One more thing. When you file, you need to request that the notary who witnessed the forged mortgage be investigated. That person is either complicit in fraud or had their credentials stolen. Either way, it needs to be flagged for investigation. I said it casually, almost as an afterthought. But I knew Ethan. Desperate men think. If he believed that notary could be convinced or coerced into changing their testimony, destroying records, covering tracks. I'll include it in the filing, Laura said quietly. We hung up. I sat at my desk for a long time afterward, looking at the photo on my shelf. Laura, at 8 years old, gap-toothed and laughing, holding up a perfect math test. That child was gone. The woman who'd abandoned her mother in the desert had taken her place. But maybe eventually something better could emerge from the wreckage. 2 weeks and 1 day later, on April 5th, Laura filed for divorce at the Phoenix courthouse. Michael called me that afternoon. It's done. She cited irreconcilable differences, requested full custody with supervised visitation for Ethan, and specifically flagged the forged mortgage documents for investigation. The papers were served to Ethan at his workplace an hour ago. How did he react? Process server said he went pale, then red, then walked out of the building without saying a word. Left his briefcase, his lunch, everything. I thanked Michael and hung up. Walked to the kitchen window, looked out at the quiet street. Eleanor was upstairs preparing the guest room for Emily and Jack, humming softly as she worked. The sound was almost peaceful. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. You did this. You destroyed my family. This isn't over. I took a screenshot, forwarded it to Michael with a note. Documentation for potential restraining order extension. Then I blocked the number and went upstairs to help Eleanor make up the twin beds with fresh sheets covered in stars and planets. The next phase was already in motion, and this time Ethan would do most of the work himself. Ethan showed up at my house 6 days after being served the divorce papers. It was nearly midnight when headlights swept across our bedroom window. I was already awake. Old prosecutor's instinct. I heard the car door slam. Heavy footsteps on the walkway. The pounding on the front door shook the frame. "Oliver, I know you're in there. You can't hide from this." I pulled on my robe and went downstairs. Eleanor appeared at the top of the stairs, frightened. "Call the police," I told her quietly. "Restraining order violation." Athan's shouting continued outside. "You turned my wife against me. You poisoned her mind. You want to take everything. I didn't open the door. Just stood in my foyer, phone in hand, waiting." The police arrived within 7 minutes, through the window. I watched 2 officers approach Ethan, who was still standing on my porch, his face red with rage. They arrested him on the spot. The next morning, Michael called with an update. He spent 48 hours in jail. Judge set bail at $5,000. He posted it this morning using a bail bondsman. He'll violate again. Probably. They always do. 6 days later, he did. The notary's office was in a small professional building downtown. Carla Reynolds had been a public notary for 15 years, meticulous about her records. When I'd mentioned her name to Laura, I'd known Ethan might try something stupid. He broke in at 3:00 in the morning on April 18th, smashed the window on the back door, triggered the silent alarm immediately. He was in the office for less than 5 minutes before police arrived, just long enough to search Carla's files, leave fingerprints on her desk and cabinets, and accomplish absolutely nothing since her records were digitally backed up and legally protected. Security cameras captured everything. Michael called me the next morning. "Your son-in-law is making this remarkably easy for us. Breaking and entering, attempted theft of records, destruction of property, combined with the restraining order violation. He's looking at serious charges." "Will he make bail again?" Doubtful. Judge Martinez doesn't appreciate repeat offenders. Ethan is probably looking at 5 to 7 days minimum before hearing. Over the following week, Ethan's life collapsed like a building with its supports removed. His employer terminated him on April 21st, standard policy for employees with pending felony charges. The foreclosure notice on his house arrived April 25th. His car was repossessed 2 days later when he missed the 3rd consecutive payment. Laura moved into a small apartment downtown, took the children with her. She'd found work as a paralegal, ironic given the circumstances, and was making the first payment on what she owed us. On April 30th, I received a call from Carla Reynolds, the notary. Her voice was shaky but angry. "Mr. Prescott, this is Carla Reynolds. The police told me you might have information about why Ethan Hayes targeted my office. He forged documents and needed your records to disappear. I want to testify against him at any hearing, any trial, what he did to your wife, what he tried to do to my business. I want him held accountable." I took down her information, passed it to Michael. Another witness, another nail. That same afternoon, Ethan's attorney reached out to Michael about a plea deal. The terms were harsh but predictable. Plead guilty to breaking and entering. Drop the attempted theft charge. 8 months probation. 200 hours community service. Restitution for damages. No jail time if he complied fully with all terms. He'll take it, I told Michael. He has no choice. Probably. His attorney knows they have video evidence and can't win at trial. 2 days later, Laura called. Her voice was exhausted, but steady. "Dad, the children want to say goodbye to Ethan before they move in with you and Mom this weekend. Can we meet somewhere supervised where the park downtown Sunday at noon? I thought maybe you should be there as the supervisor so Ethan knows the boundaries are real. I thought about it. Meeting Ethan face to face with my grandchildren present at the final moment of his collapse. I'll be there, I said. Sunday morning arrived bright and cold. Eleanor and I drove to Canyon Park just before noon. Laura was already there with Emily and Jack sitting at a picnic table near the playground. The children were subdued, sensing the weight of adult problems they couldn't quite understand. Ethan arrived 10 minutes late, driving a borrowed car. He looked diminished, unshaven, wearing rumpled clothes, moving like someone who hadn't slept in days. He stopped when he saw me standing beside Laura. His jaw clenched. "You brought him." Laura's voice was firm. "Dad is here to supervise. Those are the terms." For a moment, I thought Ethan might leave. But then Emily called out, "Daddy," and ran toward him, and whatever fight he had left drained away. I watched him kneel and hug his daughter, then his son. Watched him try to smile, tried to pretend everything was fine. Watched him lie to his children's faces about why they couldn't come home with him yet. After 15 minutes, Laura stood. "Time to go." Ethan's mask cracked. "Please, just a little longer." We agreed on 15 minutes. He looked at me then, and I saw everything in that look. Hatred, defeat, recognition that he destroyed himself more thoroughly than I ever could have. "This is all you," he said quietly. "You orchestrated everything." I met his eyes steadily. "You left my wife in the desert." Everything after that was just consequence. He had no response to that. Just turned and walked back to the borrowed car, shoulders hunched, a man carrying the full weight of his choices. Eleanor took the children's hands, leading them toward our car. Laura lingered for a moment, watching Ethan drive away. "Thank you," she said softly, "for being here, for all of this. Take care of those children," I told her. "That's all that matters now." We drove home in silence, Emily and Jack chattering in the back seat about their new room, about the stars and planets on their sheets. Innocent voices unaware of the war that had raged around them. In my rearview mirror, I watched the park disappear. It was over. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, not healing. Those would take years if they came at all. But the revenge part, that was finished. Justice had been served, cold and precise, and sometimes that had to be enough. Ethan's criminal sentencing hearing was scheduled for May 7th. I wasn't required to attend. I went anyway. The courtroom was the same one where I'd prosecuted hundreds of cases over 4 decades. Judge Martinez presided, a woman who'd come up through the system the same years as I had, who knew what thorough prosecution looked like. Ethan shuffled in, wearing county jail scrubs, unable to make bail this time. His attorney, a public defender, since Ethan could no longer afford private counsel, carried a thin folder, not much of a defense to mount. I sat in the back gallery, dressed in a suit, old habits. The judge reviewed the case file, her expression neutral, but focused. Ethan's attorney made his arguments. Isolated incidents, extreme stress from failing marriage, no prior criminal record, fully cooperative with authorities. Judge Martinez listened. Then she spoke. "Mr. Hayes, I've reviewed your case thoroughly. Your attorney argues this was a single lapse in judgment, but the record shows a pattern. You abandoned an elderly woman in dangerous conditions. You violated a restraining order. You broke into a legal office to steal confidential documents. The public defender tried again. Your Honor, my client was under extreme stress from financial difficulties. Many people face stress and financial difficulties. They don't commit crimes. Mr. Hayes made choices, consistently poor choices that endangered others and violated the law." Ethan spoke for the first time, his voice hollow. "I was trying to protect my family's interests. I was desperate. Desperation doesn't excuse criminality. I'm sentencing you to 8 months supervised probation, 200 hours of community service, full restitution for damages, and a permanent restraining order prohibiting any contact with the Prescott family. This means no contact of any kind, not through intermediaries, not through social media, not through your children. Any violation will result in immediate incarceration. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor. Ethan looked at me once as the bailiff led him out. I met his eyes steadily. He looked away first. A week later, Laura called. The divorce is final. May 15th. I'm legally free of him. Not happy, just free. That same week, I made a phone call from my locked office. Ethan's employment information obtained through divorce proceedings public record sat on my desk. This is Susan Chen. How can I help you, Miss Chen? My name is Oliver Prescott. I'm a retired prosecutor from Phoenix. I'm calling regarding one of your employees, Ethan Hayes, in your marketing department. Her voice became cautious. I can't discuss employee matters with outside parties. I understand completely. I'm not asking for information. I'm providing it. Mr. Hayes was recently convicted of breaking and entering and has multiple restraining order violations on his record. He also has documented gambling addiction with over $75,000 in casino debts. I thought your company should be aware, particularly if he has access to financial systems or client accounts. Pause. Can you provide case numbers or documentation? Everything is public record. I gave her the case numbers, the dates, the court locations. I appreciate you bringing this to our attention. I'm simply ensuring appropriate parties have relevant information. What you do with it is your decision. 3 days later, Michael called. Ethan Hayes was terminated from Apex Marketing yesterday. Official reason: violation of company ethics policy. Understood. Thank you. I walked to the living room where Eleanor was reading. It's done. She looked up, understood immediately, and nodded. No celebration, just acknowledgement. The following week, I met with our estate attorney. Eleanor came with me carrying decades of financial documents. I want to restructure our will and create a trust for Emily and Jack. The attorney took notes as I explained. Primary assets house valued at $680, 000 savings of $320, 000 would go directly to the grandchildren through a trust activating when they turned 25. Laura would receive $50, 000. Not much for your daughter, the attorney observed. Enough to show forgiveness is possible, not enough to reward what she did. The trust included strict provisions, protected from any future spouse Laura might have. Couldn't be accessed early for any reason. Required the children to maintain good academic standing and clean criminal records. This is ironclad, the attorney confirmed. No one can access or modify it without a court order proving you were incompetent when you created it. We signed the documents in early June. The notary witnessed, stamped, filed the originals in the attorney's safe. Later that month, Michael provided a final update. Ethan moved back to California, living with his mother in Sacramento, working part-time retail, barely making minimum payments on court-ordered restitution. I absorbed this information. Criminal record, check. Divorced with minimal visitation, check. House foreclosed, check. Car repossessed, check. Job terminated, check. Credit destroyed, check. $75,000 in unpayable debts, check. The man who tried to steal from us, who'd abandoned Eleanor in the desert, that man had been systematically dismantled. I felt no guilt, only the cold satisfaction of justice served. That evening, I sat on our back porch, watching Emily and Jack play in the yard. Eleanor joined me, settling into the chair beside mine. It's really over, she said quietly. Yes. Do you think Ethan will try anything else? No. He has nothing left to fight with. She was silent for a moment. What you did, coordinating all of this. Some people might call it revenge. Some people would be right, and you're okay with that. I thought about the question about 40 years of prosecuting criminals, of building cases, of believing in consequences, about finding my wife bruised and abandoned at a desert gas station, about watching Ethan manipulate our daughter into complicity. I stopped a criminal using legal means. I'd do it again. Eleanor reached over and took my hand. Her grip was strong, steady. The tremor she'd had for weeks after the abandonment was gone now. Good, she said, because he deserved everything he got. We sat together as the sun set, watching our grandchildren play, and for the first time in months, the weight I'd been carrying lifted. Justice wasn't just served, it was complete. Summer arrived with a gentleness that felt earned. Emily and Jack adjusted to living with us with the resilience of children, their rooms filled with artwork, homework assignments, the comfortable chaos of young lives. Eleanor enrolled them in summer programs at the local community center. I taught Jack to ride a bike in our driveway, running alongside him until the moment he found his balance and pedaled away laughing. Eleanor started therapy twice a week. A kind woman named Dr. Patricia Lynn, who specialized in trauma recovery. At first, Eleanor resisted. I'm fine. I don't need to talk to anyone. But I insisted. The abandonment, the bruises, the betrayal by our daughter. Those things left marks deeper than skin. After 3 weeks, Eleanor came home from a session and told me, Patricia asked me today what I wanted from the future. I realized I'd been so focused on surviving. I'd forgotten to think about living. And what do you want to be a grandmother? To feel safe in my own life again. To forgive Laura eventually when she's earned it. Not today, but maybe someday. Laura called every evening to talk to her children. Brief conversations full of how was school and did you brush your teeth? And I love you. She sent the first payment of what she owed us. $500, nearly half her paycheck from her paralegal job. On the second Saturday of June, she asked if she could visit just for an hour. I want to see them. I want to see you both. I looked at Eleanor. She nodded slowly. Saturday afternoon. 2001 hour. Laura arrived exactly on time, carrying a bag of art supplies for the kids. She'd lost weight, looked tired, but steady. She hugged Emily and Jack carefully like she was afraid they'd break or disappear. Mom, Jack asked, "When are we coming home?" Laura's face crumpled for just a moment. Then she smiled. "Grandma and Grandpa's house is your home right now, honey. But we'll have special visits. Okay, like today, after the children went outside to play." Laura turned to us. "I'm taking night classes at the Community College Business Administration. I want to support myself properly. Give them stability. I know I can't undo what I did, but I'm trying to become someone who deserves them back eventually." I didn't soften immediately. Words are easy. Actions take time. I know. I'm prepared to take that time. Those Saturday visits became routine. Every week, same time, Laura would arrive with some small gift or activity. She never asked to take the children anywhere alone. Never pushed boundaries. Just showed up consistently, proving through repetition that she could be trusted. Ethan exercised his monthly supervised visitation rights exactly once in June at a facility in Phoenix with a court-appointed supervisor present. According to the report Laura received, he'd sat stiffly across from Emily and Jack for 30 minutes, asked surface questions about school, and left early, claiming he had work. He never scheduled another visit. August brought our 38th wedding anniversary. I'd planned nothing elaborate. The past months had been exhausting enough. But Eleanor wanted to celebrate. "We survived," she said simply. "That deserves recognition." We invited Laura for dinner. She arrived early to help cook, moving around our kitchen like she remembered from childhood, instinctively knowing where everything lived. The evening was almost normal. Emily showed us her report card. All A's and B's. Jack demonstrated his new ability to snap his fingers. We ate lasagna and garlic bread and the lemon cake Laura had baked. After dinner, after the children were playing in the living room, and Laura was clearing dishes, Eleanor and I stepped onto the front porch. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. 38 years, Eleanor said. Through everything, I echoed. Do you think Laura will be okay? Really okay. I thought about the question about my daughter who'd made terrible choices, paid terrible prices, and was slowly rebuilding herself, piece by piece. I think she has a chance if she keeps showing up, if she keeps doing the work. And us, are we okay? I looked at my wife, 62 years old, bruises long faded, strength returned, the woman I'd driven 250 miles through the night to rescue, the woman who'd sat beside me through investigations, court hearings, strategic planning, the woman who'd chosen to heal rather than break. We're more than okay, I said. Inside. Laura called. Dessert's ready. Wait. We just ate. I realized she meant dessert. Old habit. Calling it wrong. Emily and Jack raced toward the house, laughing about something only they understood. Eleanor stood, tugged my hand. Come on. Let's eat with our family. I rose, but paused at the porch rail, looking out at the neighborhood. 38 years in this house, 40 years as a prosecutor before that. I'd spent my entire life pursuing justice in courtrooms through evidence by legal means. What happened with Ethan was just one more case, except it wasn't. It was personal, and personal cases required complete solutions. Ethan was gone, not dead, not in prison, just removed, living the diminished life in California. No threat to anyone. Laura was here rebuilding, earning forgiveness slowly. Eleanor was healing. The children were safe. Oliver. Eleanor called from the doorway. I turned, saw my wife backlit by warm kitchen light, heard my grandchildren's voices. This is what justice looks like, I thought. Not courtrooms or sentences. This family, safety, healing. I walked inside and Eleanor closed the door behind us. Through the window, the porch swing rocked gently in the evening breeze. Empty now, but waiting. Tomorrow would come with its own challenges. But tonight was simply dinner with family. Laughter around a table. Ordinary moments that once seemed lost forever. Eleanor brought out the anniversary cake. 38 candles, actually just 4 in one. We sang off-key and joyful. I made a wish, not for revenge or justice. Those were complete. I wished for continued healing, for my grandchildren's futures, for my wife's peace. I blew out the candles. Everyone cheered. And for the first time since that midnight phone call from a gas station 8 months ago, I felt something I'd almost forgotten. Contentment. The revenge was over. The healing had just begun. And sometimes that balance was exactly what justice required. As the echoes of our song faded into the warm night air, I glanced around the table, seeing faces lit by candlelight, faces that had weathered storms together. In that moment, peace settled like a gentle rain, washing away the scars of betrayal. Family, fragile yet fierce, had found its footing again. And so, dear listener, what lingers with you from this tale of justice and quiet triumph? Share your thoughts in the comments below, your impressions, your questions. What would you have done in Oliver's shoes? Let's exchange ideas, spark conversations right here. Engage with the channel. Subscribe for more stories that stir the soul. To hear the next gripping tale, simply click the box on the left. Thank you for joining this journey. Until next time.